And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian, and yes, I meant it when I said it was going to happen. I'm going to do it, and I did it, and I'm doing it right now. This is the second edition of the newly reformed, in a sense, Movie Pit Podcast. I forgot the name of it. Movie Pit Podcast Reviews. Of course, the last review we did felt like so long ago. It was for Snatched and King Arthur Legend of the Sword. I am here now for the second edition, and it is, of course, for Wonder Woman. And also for Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. That's right. Originally, I was just going to review Wonder Woman. However, I ended up going to go watch Captain Underpants this weekend as well, and I kind of thoroughly enjoyed it for what it was. We'll get to that more in a minute, but I just want to say that yes, this is a review. I do also want to say that the reviews in these review podcasts are going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen Captain Underpants, or if you haven't seen Wonder Woman, we're gonna talk about them. We're gonna dive right into them, and the only real way to really talk about these movies, especially for Wonder Woman, is to get into some spoiler territory. I'm not really a huge fan of spoilers too much. I just don't like the idea of spoiling things for people. And even then, even when you hear me talk about these kind of movies, I don't spoil it too much. Reason being is that I think that there should be some things you should experience on your own. The case of Wonder Woman is going to be a little different because Wonder Woman made a crap ton of money this weekend, so I'm pretty sure enough people saw it. And if you're listening to this review, you maybe saw it as well. So I just want to get that out of the way. Every review that you see from this point forward, Snatched and King Arthur reviews also have spoilers in them. But just in case you didn't listen to those and this is your first time listening to the reviews or to just the Movie Pit podcast in general, when we review movies, we will be going into spoiler territory. So spoiler warnings all around for every movie we do reviews for. And it's only at the beginning of the week, because at the end of the week we also have a weekly roundup of movie news. So we don't really review movies there. We just do them here at the beginning of the week. All right. So let's get right to it, shall we? Let's get right to the reviews of the podcast. Like I mentioned, I went to go see Captain Underpants, the first epic movie this weekend, and we'll review that first. Of course, we'll get to Wonder Woman later. If you want to skip right to the Wonder Woman review, there is a timestamp down below in the description area if you want to jump ahead on that. So, Captain Underpants, of course, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, as it's called. Of course, based off the popular books by Dave Pinkney. I think that's his name. I didn't write it down. I'm going off memory. I think that's what his name is. But the film itself, I think it's based off the first 4 books. Could be wrong about that. I think I read that somewhere. It's been a while since I read the books, so that's the reason why I'm a little iffy on that information. But the film follows George, voiced by Kevin Hart, and Harold, voiced by Thomas Middleditch, as pranksters in their elementary school that have not only driven their principal crazy, Mr. Krupp, which is voiced by Ed Helms, but it also kind of gives the students some levity in their lives, because the school is kind of run a little like a prison almost. There's really no fun at all at that elementary school. So of course the film really picks up when Mr. Krupp announces that there is a mandatory creation assembly, which needs the students to create something to present to the school, and it's on a Saturday morning of all times, of all the days. It's on a Saturday morning at 8:00, which I found funny. But Krupp has had enough, and he finally has caught George and Harold red-handed, thanks to the help of one of their classmates, Melvin, played by or voice, I should say, by Jordan Peele, which I didn't know because it didn't. I don't know if I just like when I heard his voice, I didn't really think Jordan Peele. Maybe I just wasn't paying too much attention to it. But Jordan Peele voices Melvin, and he gets them in trouble. And the idea is that Mr. Krupp is going to separate them, and somehow George finds this old plastic toy that's supposed to hypnotize you, and it actually works on Mr. Krupp, and they make him become their comic book creation, Captain Underpants, because they are very creative people. Two very creative young adults, kids, pretty much. They're in kindergarten, George and Harold, and they make him become Captain Underpants. And there's this really funny way that they transform Mr. Krupp into Captain Underpants. Apparently involves water most of the time, so he can't get wet because it kind of snaps him out of it. But they can bring him back with the snap of their fingers. So they kind of milk it for a good chunk of the movie, and then a new character comes into play in Professor Poopy Pants. Yes, that is his name, Professor Poopy Pants. And if you can't tell, I am smiling, and I will keep smiling every time I say his name because I have a mind of a 5-year-old apparently. But he has this evil scheme that's revealed that he wants to take laughter away from the world. And what better place to start it than elementary school, I guess. And he uses Melvin for the scheme as well in the film. So Melvin becomes this little kind of pseudo henchman in a way, but not really a henchman because he's still a child. But of course, the only people that can stand in their way are George, Harold, and Captain Underpants. That's pretty much the basic premise of the film. And the film gets pretty meta sometimes. I mean, George and Harold acknowledge the audience. They break the fourth wall. They narrate a lot of the film. They kind of slow everything down. At one point, they're like, "Oh, hold up, freeze!" And then they start talking to us, the audience, which is pretty cool. And it's done in a very funny and very organic and general way. It's not forced. It's an animated movie, so it's bound to happen like that. But the way they use it is actually pretty cool, and there's very these really cool the way they edit it is very cool because it talks about them and they go to like the flashbacks and they kind of use like comic book ways, like there's like the sweeping motion of a page when they're going, because they're comic book creators, and Harold, Thomas Middleditch's character, he's the artist. He draws everything, and George is the guy that comes up with the stories, and that's why they work very well together. And in one of the flashbacks, they show how they became friends. And it was in kindergarten, and the teacher was talking about the planets, and of course there is a Uranus joke, or Uranus for those of you who don't have a sense of humor. There is a Uranus joke, and they're the only ones in the classroom that really laugh at the same time, and that's when they become instant friends. So it's the film. Like I said, the film itself is what it is. It's a Captain Underpants movie. It's a kids movie. It's an animated movie. They make fun of themselves for being toilet humor, as they call it, several times throughout the film. But it's funny. I mean, it drives a story between these two characters. George and Harold's story is really, really cool, and you have to remind yourself that they're young. And I think at some point they say they're in kindergarten, or not in kindergarten, but they're in they met in kindergarten. But you have to remind yourself that they're still kids. They're probably like 6 or 7. I don't think they ever actually say what grade they're in. I can't remember if they said or not. But they're like 4th, maybe they're like like 3rd or 4th grade or something like that. And the idea of them breaking up and them potentially never being friends again is like it's made a really big deal in the movie. There's this really cool and funny kind of flash forward in a potential future of theirs, and it becomes like this sci-fi kind of end of the world kind of ordeal. But you gotta remember they're still little kids, and it's very over exaggerated. It's funny, but it's very over exaggerated, and you have to remember, like, oh yeah, these are kids. Of course they're gonna think like this. I liked it. I think that, you know, it's not the best animated film out there, but I honestly had a fun time with it. It's funny. The constant back and forth between George and Harold, their chemistry, even though, you know, it's voice animation, the fact that you can still sort of feel like maybe they were in the same room, although I highly doubt it, because sometimes that's not how they do animated movies, but it kind of felt like they were sometimes in the same room, so that was pretty cool. But that was fun. The back and forth between Krupp and Captain Underpants was pretty funny, although it does kind of overstay its welcome a little bit, because there's one point where it's like, it's literally just going back and forth, and it's like, okay, that's, alright, we're done with that. But, I mean, it's not that bad. And again, I haven't really read up on any of the Captain Underpants books since I was a kid, so I don't really know how it holds up to the source material. Like I mentioned, I think it's based off the first 4 books from something I read when the film was coming out for the first time, but I don't know if that's extremely the case. Villain-wise, Professor Poopy Pants, his full name is revealed, but if you end up watching, I'm not going to spoil it for you. That's something I won't spoil, because that's something you really have to hear for yourself. And Professor Poopy Pants, by the way, is voiced by Nick Kroll. I forgot to mention that. And he's very good in that as well. So yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, it's a good movie. I mean, the relationship between Gerald and George and Harold is what makes the film tick. It's what makes the film go. Anytime they're on screen, anytime they're going back and forth, it's hilarious. The movie really could have probably sometimes been called Harold and George, because Captain Underpants is in the movie and he does play a role in the film, but it's not like it's a film about him. And I can't, if that's the way the books are, I just can't remember. So yeah, I liked it. I did. I didn't think I would like it, but I did. So even if you know you have nieces or nephews, or you just you're like, you know what, it's the middle of the week, I have nothing to watch, I want to go watch Captain Underpants. Give that a shot. You're not gonna hate yourself for it. I personally gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It's something that I wasn't really expecting. It's not, you know, a crappy animated film. It's pretty funny at times. It's laugh out loud funny at times. Some of the humor is more directed toward kids, but there is some of the humor that still works for older people. So I really enjoyed it. I don't know. Maybe, like I said, man, you know, I'm still a kid at heart. Maybe I still have the mind of a 5-year-old. I don't know. So there you go. 3.5 out of 5 for Captain Underpants. All right, let us move on to, of course, the big review this week, which is, of course, Wonder Woman.
Diana, fighting does not make you a hero.
What if I promise to be careful? Just a shield, then.
Diana.
No sharp edges.
Be careful of mankind, Diana. They do not deserve you.
You've told me this story.
What is this place? Who are you people?
We are the bridge to a greater understanding.
Right.
What is your mission?
Well, here's the thing. You are in more danger than you think. The boys in the trenches called her Dr. Poison. Millions would die. The war would never end.
I'm going, Mother. If you choose to leave, you may never return. Who will I be if I stay?
Will come when you will have to rise.
To the war.
Well, technically the war's that way, but we gotta go this way first.
How can a woman fight in this? Ooh.
Who is this young woman?
She's my,
Diana, Princess of the Mist.
Prince, Diana Prince. If you you believe that this war should stop. Help me stop it right now.
What are you?
You will soon find out.
Ah, Wonder Woman. This was the movie that so many people have been waiting for. This is the movie that people were like, this is it. This is what's gonna, make or break the DCEU. This is the movie that I'm gonna watch and see if it's still worth it. This movie better be good. This is the first Wonder Woman movie that has ever been made after years and years of development. I'm not talking about just the Joss Whedon movie that was going to be made, was like 2009 or something like that. I posted something on the Facebook page, facebook.com/moviepit, by the way, that Collider released an article kind of breaking down what was in Joss Whedon's script. Very different from the Wonder Woman that we saw. But if you want to go, read up on that, you can. There was other versions of Wonder Woman before that, film-wise, that they were working on. But the Joss Whedon one felt like it was the closest one to date. And obviously that one didn't get made, and Joss Whedon left and went on to do other stuff, of course, like the Avengers. But this Wonder Woman, we talked about here on the podcast, on the weekly Roundup news podcast at the end of the week, that Wonder Woman was going to be one of those movies that, for me personally, it had to be good. It had to be good because going into their big film, going into Justice League, you can't have 4 straight misses. Man of Steel, although I like Man of Steel. Not a lot of people did, but I like Man of Steel. Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and then Wonder Woman. You can't have pure misses all the time to go into your big lead-up film that is Justice League for that to potentially be another big failure and another big, thing. So Wonder Woman had a lot of, weight on its shoulders. And then the reviews started coming out saying it was the best DCEU movie to come out. And to me, that wasn't really saying much because what we got so far hasn't been all that great. But Wonder Woman came out, like I mentioned on the Friday podcast last week. Excuse me. Like I mentioned on the Friday podcast last week, I spontaneously went to go watch it on Thursday. I was gonna wait till the weekend to go watch it, but I watched it on Thursday, and I liked it. I let it sit because I didn't want to, snap into judgment too fast. I went to go watch it again on Saturday like I was originally going to, and I still ended up liking it. I thought it was still good. The gripes I had when watching it on Thursday came back over the weekend when I watched it. I've been sitting down, I've been reading some other people's, opinions, and, reading some reviews afterwards of people that I trust, reviewers that I trust and that I like and actually go into some good things. But Wonder Woman, this is a good movie, and I mentioned that on Friday's podcast as well. This is a good movie. This isn't just a good comic book movie. This is a good movie, period. It's not a great movie. It's not a perfect movie, but it is a good movie, and it is, I think, the movie that not only that we needed for the DCEU, but a movie to really help to really help what people thought has been, at least in the last few of couple months, the movie that we need to really, boost up the podcast, the box office. You can arguably say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, although that movie was not beloved like the first one, because I think too many people had it, way too much hype, and that movie, of course, has its flaws, and I had my gripes with that movie as well. But Wonder Woman, it kind of felt like it was on a whole other planet, because Wonder Woman was this movie that felt like it was never going to happen, and then like, oh, we're making, the DC extended, universe movie world, and we're like, oh, great, awesome, we're definitely going to have a Wonder Woman movie introduced in Batman v Superman, and to some people, arguably, the best part about Batman v Superman was Wonder Woman, her appearance, which got people more excited for the potential solo movie. And now we're here, and it's pretty damn good. So the movie, it starts off in present day. It starts off with Diana, as she will be referred to throughout the whole movie, and I'll get to that later on. But she's going to work in the Louvre, which is where she works in modern day over in Paris, and she gets the original picture that was seen and teased in Batman v Superman, and that we actually see being taken later on in the film, with her standing next to Steve Trevor and to the other characters that we'll talk about and that we get to know in this film. And of course she flashes back to not even to the war, she flashes back all the way to childhood, so we get to see Themyscira, which is where she's from, or Paradise Island if you saw the TV show, the old TV show, the 70s TV show. 70s? No, I could be wrong about that. I think it's 80s. Late 70s? Early? I forgot. Anyway, the TV show. You know what I'm talking about. The Linda Carter TV show. But, so we get to see her as a child. And we get to see Themyscira and her growing up and her wanting to be this warrior. You know, she doesn't want to just be a child. She wants to be a warrior because she sees all these Amazonians, these Amazon warriors fighting and training every day. And she wants to become that. But her mother, played by Connie Nielsen, Queen Hippolyta, she doesn't want her to train. She doesn't want her to be a warrior. She wants her to grow up as a child. And there's a reason for that, which again I'll get to in a little bit later. But her aunt, played by Robin Wright, she wants her to train. She wants her to be ready for an oncoming attack or whatever attack that could be coming someday. And what we see, you know, we see her grow up and we see her as a teenager still training, and then we finally see her as the adult Diana, played by Gal Gadot, training. And before that, we get to see this little cool, really cool animation of how the Amazons and how Themyscira came to be. I thought that was really cool animation, really cool style of how they did it. And but let's get to the main story. Diana trains. We see her, as we see in the trailers, she's training, and all of a sudden, she uses her gauntlets as a power, and it throws her aunt back, and she runs away trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And then of course we see the plane coming in to Themyscira, and we see on that plane is Steve Trevor, who's about to drown, but Diana pulls him out, and it leads to Steve telling the Amazons, Steve telling them that there's a war going on, and it's the most terrible war he's ever seen. Of course, he has the lasso of truth, or the lasso of I didn't write the name, Hestia. I think that's what the actual name of the rope of Hestia. That's the actual name for that. Not just the lasso of truth, because that sounds too comic booky. But it's the same idea. I think it's Hestia, and it compels the person under it to tell the truth. And he tells them the truth. He tells them that it's possibly the end of the world, at least from what he's seen. And this is World War I, by the way. The TV show was based off World War II. Most of the stories, I think, of Wonder Woman have been based in World War II. They based the film in World War I, which kind of works in a lot of ways still as well. But, Diana, she can't sit back and she can't do nothing. And she sees this as the work of Ares, the god of war, which is feared by the Amazons because he was cast down by Zeus, and they think he's still alive, and they feel that he's still alive. And Ares he's played up as this big bad that the Amazons swore they would protect the world from. But at the same time, they almost don't want to do anything about it. At least Queen Hippolyta doesn't want to do anything about it, because she feels that Ares is dead, and even if he is still alive, there's no way he can find them. So Diana goes with Steve back to London because he has his book by the villain, one of the two villains of the film, of Dr. Moreau, or aka Dr. Poison, as he says the boys in the trenches call her. And she's a scientist, chemist, I should say, scientist, chemist, that of course creates these gases, these poisonous gases, and she works with a German general who doesn't really like the fact that the Germans are gonna take a step back and they're gonna potentially sign this peace treaty. Ludendorff, I think that's how his name is pronounced, played by Danny Houston, who is always reliable at playing a villain. He can play a villain in his sleep, so this was no bad role for him. But Steve Trevor has his book, and he has to go back to London to try to convince his superiors that this poison, she's dangerous. They release this poison to the world, the war's over. And the generals don't believe it. Diana gets upset, of course, but Steve tells her that they're going to go anyway. And what follows is Diana seeing the travesties of war, but also getting to know humanity through Steve and his little gang that he's gathered together to go and stop Ares. So that's the movie in a nutshell. That's pretty much the movie in a nutshell. So let's get to the things that first I didn't like. Let's get the stuff I didn't like out of the way first. First of all, I wish that we could have spent a little more time in Themyscira, because it's the first time we've seen this version of Themyscira on the big screen, or the first time we've seen Themyscira at all on the big screen. I wish we had spent a little more time there. I think it would have been great. It's a paradise. It feels like it's always sunny. There's a force field around it, which is the reason why people haven't, I guess, found it more often. But you can go through the force field, which seems odd, and the fact that no one's ever found it seems even odder. But whatever. But there's the point where Steve's coming in, and there's Germans following him, and we get the point from the Germans who are see Steve, a part of Steve's ship in the ocean, and they go through, and then they see the sunlight, and they see this paradise, and then they go back, and it's back, and there's a fog, and it's really dark it's really dark. It's like at night for some reason, and then they go through the force field, and it's just this beautiful paradise in front of them, which probably tells you that's first the big theme. Paradise Island, outside Paradise Island, dark, smug, foggy everywhere. It's a terrible place to live. But so yeah, I wish we had spent a little bit more time on Themyscira. I wish we had gotten to know a little bit more of the Amazons that are there, because we get to the movie makes the point of singling out a few Amazons along the way. But that's it. We don't see them very often. We're on Themyscira for the first 15-20 minutes of the film, if that, to be honest. And that's it. I wish we had spent a little more time. I mean, I think the movies are already over 2 hours long, but you could have, I would have been totally fine spending a little bit more time, another extra 10-15 minutes on Themyscira, just getting the lay of the land and seeing how everything is, and getting to know more of these people, because eventually, we're going to probably see these people again, and I hope it's not just for 5 minutes in Justice League. I want to see more of these people, and they single them out for, thinking these are the powerful warriors of Themyscira, but we don't get to know them. You can basically say, that's Amazon number 1, that's Amazon number 2, so that's pretty much it. So I wish we had spent a little more time on Themyscira. When it comes to the other characters in the film, they're just a smidge, a little bit underdeveloped. We get, and one of the ones I want to highlight the most is, besides the villains, and I'll get to that in a second, is Ewan Bremner's character Charlie, the sniper on Steve's team. There's a point where he's sleeping, and the chief, played by Eugene Brave Rock, I believe that's what his name is. I didn't write it down, but I think that's where it is. He tells Diana that he sees ghosts, and they don't know where it is, but obviously we, the audience, know what it is. He's suffering from PTSD. I wish they had spent a little more time on that. I wish they had spent a little more time, because he's, when we first see him, he's getting beat up in a bar, and he's drinking. He's pretty much drunk, and he says, when Diana, when Diana finds out, what he does, he kills people from afar. Say, where's the honor in that? And he says, there's no honor. You don't get paid with honor. Honor doesn't pay you. And I wish we got to know a little bit more about him, especially after finding that out, because we do see him struggling with shooting people or shooting people from afar, because he sees their faces, and he says, I don't want to see their faces. It's better not to see their faces. I wish we spent a little more time with that. We get to see the scene with him, being like singing in the bar after the No Man's Land and Village siege, but that's pretty, we see him singing, it's like, that's it. It's like, oh, we haven't heard him. We see, we hear Steve saying, I haven't heard him sing in years. And that's all kind of development we get from him. And I wish we got to spend a little more time with that. And I think bring in the PTSD element. Yes, this movie is about Diana. This movie is about Wonder Woman. But, you don't bring that in and then be like, it's fine, whatever. No, spend a little more time with that. Eugene Brave Rock's character, the Chief, known as just the Chief. We don't know him as anything else. He brings in the other kind of element, more theme-wise, of his people's land being taken away from him. When Diana asks, who took your land? It's like, his people. And that was I don't know, that hit a little bit. I was like, oh man, that's deep. This movie's cutting in deep. And it does. This movie has a lot of social commentary, and it has a lot of social issues, and it touches on them a little bit and hints at them a little bit, and it's there. It's one of these movies that it isn't just a comic book, and that's what I mentioned was like earlier, when it's not just a comic book movie. It's not just a good comic book movie. It's a good movie in general. And when it touches on stuff like that a little bit, I think that's what makes it worthwhile. So sticking with the underdevelopment characters, the villains. And this is the problem with the DCEU, and you can arguably say other comic book movies as well. Underdeveloped villains. Dr. Maru, aka Dr. Poison, she looks terrible. I mean, she has the mask, which makes her, that's it. It makes her interesting. I think she could have been utilized a lot more. We saw that shot in some of the trailers where she, and we've seen it in the movie, where she drops the bomb, and I wish that we could have seen a little bit more of her like that. I wish we could have seen her just a little bit more active. Danny Huston, like I mentioned, he could play a bad guy in his sleep by now, and his German general character, I don't know. There was just Danny Huston has a very intimidating presence. He's a nice guy. You see him in interviews. He's a really nice guy, but he has this terrifying presence about him, and he just screams out villain. I don't think we can ever see him play a good guy, because he just has this presence of being a bad guy. But his character, I don't know. Just his character's like, yeah, he's an evil German commander. That's it. That's all his character is. But he gets, and this is another thing that I have with Wonder Woman. It brings up some questions and never answers. Like Dr. Poison, I'm just gonna call her Dr. Poison. She gives him like this gas that makes him stronger. What the hell is that gas? That we don't know what that gas is, and he only uses it a couple times, and it makes him super strong. And that's it. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it does to him. I mean, we see him. There's some CGI in his face. It looks like, but we don't know what it does to him. We know it makes him super strong, but that's it. We don't know what it is. We don't know why she made it. We don't know why he takes it. That's it. It's over. I don't know. Ares. Let's talk about Ares for a second. David Thewlis, I think that's how you say his name. Thewlis. Of course, plays Sir Patrick in the film. But of course, he goes on and he's discovered that he plays Ares in the film. And that's it. He's the God of War. What other motivation does he have? Nothing. Just to show Diana that men are evil. He calls himself not the God of War, but he calls himself the God of Truth. And that's it. That's all he does. And then he has that fight with Wonder Woman. He's a very underdeveloped and weak villain. That he looked badass, though. I will admit, he looked badass, especially when he finally suits up, and he just kind of rubs his hand, not rubs his hand, but he claws his helmet to make to make the mask complete. I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, that's it. He doesn't really do. I mean, like, his powers are, he can levitate things off the ground, and he can make swords out of the things around him. And for some reason, he knows how to conduct and summon thunder and electricity, even though that's Zeus's power. So are we saying that all gods know how to control and conduct thunder and lightning? Is that established that all gods have that ability? Because he's the god of war. He's not Zeus, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just his motivation was a little Just like, I'm the god of war. I want the world to be. I want mankind to destroy themselves, so I can create this paradise where they're no longer around. And that's not good enough for me personally, and for a lot of other people, from what I've read so far. So he's a little wonky, but his motivation's a little wonky. Speaking about wonky, of course, the film ends on a big CGI battle, and even though the CGI there looks a little okay, there are some other wonky bits within the film where the CGI is a little off. I don't have a problem with, and this is one of the things that I know. One of the big criticisms with Man of Steel is that they move too fast. They move like they're fighting. They move like it's a fight scene from Dragon Ball Z. Well, one, they're not human, so that's not the big like, of course that's the big that doesn't make it okay, but they're not human. One, so they're gonna move faster than us, and it's gonna look a little wonky because we're not used to seeing humans move that fast. But sometimes when they were moving fast, especially Diana in the village, outside the village, when they were fighting in the square with the lasso of truth, when she's sliding around, sometimes it does look a little wonky. There are some other stuff like the beach scene when one of the Amazons throws the spear and we see the soldier get hit with it right before the camera just zooms right past him. He looked a little plasticky, obviously CGI character, but there's just some points where the CGI is a little wonky, but it wasn't terrible. It was like, that's it, I'm done. No, but the big CGI battle at the end, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the big CGI battle, especially in the DCEU. Like, come on, do something else. Come on. Surrounded by fire, that was another thing. Like the Doomsday fight, surrounded by fire. I don't know, just whatever. Whatever. Then there's the god killer aspect of the film, and the fact that Diana is the god killer, not the sword that it's talked about throughout the film. That part, I mean, I don't know how I felt about that part, because it gets teased a little bit, because she gets cut in the film early in the film, and the person that's healing her says interesting. And you're like, why is that interesting? But then you got to remember that the Amazons that we see earlier in that scene on the beach, they die because they get shot. So, which first of all was very surprising, the fact that they died right away when they get shot by a bullet, because you would think that all these Amazons they're practically stronger than any sort of person around the world. Why would they just go down with a gunshot? Something never. I guess you could say that's something they've never seen before. But at the same time, it's like these, they're defying gravity most of the time. So, a gunshot is really going to kill them. But I don't know. I mean, that part got a little crazy. But, going back to the cut, she heals right away. So, the idea that maybe she doesn't, need to defend herself too much because she's practically a god. So maybe is she practically immortal? Is she, she's not invulnerable, obviously, because although Ares is a god himself, so maybe, he was able actually to inflict a lot of damage on her. I don't know. I just, the whole god killer aspect, that she is herself a god or a demigod, or again, whatever G you want to put in front of it, is interesting. And I wish they could have gone a little bit more into that, but obviously they didn't. But that is something that I would like to see be brought up again. Hopefully in Justice League too, because she's facing off against Steppenwolf and Darkseid, who are other big strong competitors. So what is that going to be like? Now that she is the God Killer herself, how is that going to come into play? So I wish they kind of went a little bit more into that, but they didn't. But whatever. Well, not whatever, but I wish they would go more into that, because it's interesting. Like, okay, yeah, it's like, oh, the God Killer, and then it gets destroyed, and like, no, you're the God Killer, and you're just sitting there like, huh, okay. And then obviously she kills Ares, but at the same time, it's like, why, but how, why? Like, go more into that. I want to know more into, like, yeah, she's a God Killer, awesome, but it's like, okay, that's it, and then they just move on, and then that's, I don't know. I hope they go back into that again in future movies. So let's talk about the good stuff. Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot is perfect. She's great. She's awesome as Wonder Woman. She is. Everyone had their doubts. Even I had my doubts about Gal Gadot. I'm not gonna be like one of those people like, oh no, I knew she could pull it off. No, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to myself. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had my doubts about her playing Wonder Woman, because we've only seen her in, really, the Fast and the Furious movies. She's done other small stuff here and there after the Fast and the Furious movies, but that's all a majority of us have probably seen her in. So everyone had their doubts about, she can pull off the character. Can she pull off, this famous pop culture character? And there was the haters out there saying, oh, she's too small, she's too skinny, her boobs aren't big enough, she doesn't have enough muscle, she looks nothing like from the comic books or whatever. And those excuses were just really, I hated those. I hate reading those. They were just dumb. Like, oh, she's not big enough, her boobs aren't big enough. No, just stop. That shouldn't matter. And it shouldn't matter, and it doesn't matter, because her portrayal as Diana, because she is Diana. No one calls her Wonder Woman in this movie. The name Wonder Woman is never there. It's not even like a cheeky thing like Man of Steel was like, oh, Superman. Like, what did you call him? It's like, that's what they're calling him. They never say, oh, she's a Wonder Woman, or nothing like that. They call her Diana, and that's all they call her, because this movie is about her becoming Wonder Woman. She's not just Wonder Woman right off the bat. No, she is Diana, Princess of Themyscira, daughter of the whole thing where she was ranting off at the end, daughter of Hippolyta, and defender of all mankind, or whatever that last line was. Whatever that last line was, but she's Diana in this movie. She's not Wonder Woman, and I love that. I love that she builds up to that. She's great. She's awesome. She has the vulnerability. She has the emotional side attached. But when it comes down to, going out there and kicking some ass, damn, can she do it? And she's awesome in it. And I love her. I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I think that she's perfect for the role after watching this. I really do. I want to see more of her. I hope that she has a big role in Justice League, and I hope that they fast track Wonder Woman too, because I want to see more of her as Diana. I want to see more of her as Wonder Woman. She's awesome in it. She handles herself so well. No one ever steals a scene away from her when she's on, because it's just like, no, that's it. It's her. She owns it. She owns every scene she's in, and she's awesome in it. So, any kind of excuse you have about Gal Gadot not, being able to play Wonder Woman or Diana, I didn't want to swear on this podcast, but I'm gonna do it. Fuck you. And there's something wrong with you if you don't think she's pulled it off. So, yeah, I loved Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. She was awesome. She was great. The other good cast member is Chris Pine. I think his Steve Trevor was pretty damn good. He has his funny moments in the movie. His chemistry with Gal Gadot, his character chemistry with Steve and Diana were great. The romance, I didn't really feel like the romance was forced. I felt like it came out, organically. I hate using that word because everyone else uses that word and I hate using it. But it was very natural. There, put it that way. It was very natural. It's another word for organic. Shut up. I know it is. Quiet. I guess I'm talking to myself. But I felt like it was natural. I felt like it wasn't like it just was like, oh, we're just gonna have a love story because we can. No, it felt very natural, and it was a natural progression of them, becoming romantically someone involved, because Of course, they're not going to be together because Steve Trevor died. But which I have some gripes with, for one. But I'll get to that after I mention this. I thought but the other thing about Steve Trevor that I thought was good is that he grows a little bit with Diana, and Diana grows a little bit with him. So their characters really work together because they're growing. They're helping each other grow, which is very, 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 very good to watch on screen, and very important to, of course, the Wonder Woman development, or Diana's development. I'm sorry, into the film. So yeah, the gripe I have, one of the other gripes I have is Steve Trevor. He dies in this movie. I didn't like that. I thought it was like, okay, they're gonna go with that. Now here's the thing with this movie. We know that Wonder Woman is in the past. We know this movie is set in the past. No, this one that didn't sound right. The Wonder Woman movie is set in the past, and of course, Justice League and everything else is set in the present. So we know these characters aren't around anymore, and we know that Steve wasn't going to be around anymore. But to have him die in this movie I was like, wow, they went there. They went there. They killed him off. One, it takes away any potential of him coming back for. Obviously, it takes, and he's not like, and this wasn't like, oh no, maybe he can survive. No, he blew up. That's it. There was no. If they bring him back for Wonder Woman 2, if it's set in the past, if they bring him back, I'll be like, no, that's bullshit. I don't care if this is a comic book movie. I don't care if this is a comic book world. It also demeans his death if they bring him back for another movie. Unless it's like some sort of flashback that we didn't see in the first film where she sees him somehow, like he comes back to her like as a ghost or something. Or as a specter or whatever. Or as a dream. That's fine. Bring him back like that. But don't bring him back like completely. No, don't do that. Not even in the multiverse. I see you, Flash. Stay out of this. I didn't think they would go that route. And when they killed him, I was like, wow, they really went that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, killing him off actually helps Diana move forward. And I thought that was, move forward and also get her abilities to finally defeat Ares and finally see what's worth fighting for. It's not just, protecting people anymore. It's protecting what they believe in and protecting something that's worth fighting for, which is love. So I liked it and I didn't like it because it's like, oh, we don't have Chris Pine anymore, but we weren't gonna have Chris Pine anyway because again, movies set in the past and everything else is set in the present. The other character I really liked, even though she had a very small role, was Etta, the Steve's secretary. For the life of me, I didn't put her name down, but Lucy Davis, I think what was her name. But she was great. She has a very small role in the movie. She's a side character, but she's great with the screen time that they give her. Her role is very small, but I think she knocks it out of the park. She's very funny, and I kind of wish we had seen a little bit more of her, but we didn't. But that's, her character. Obviously, they're on the battlegrounds over in Belgium, so we can't really have her character appear too much. But I thought she was a great character in that. The action, very fluid action. There wasn't too many close-ups or shaky cams. We get to see Diana kick a lot of ass, and we get to see the action. We don't get there's no close-ups and you don't know what the hell's going on too many times. No, we see her in all her glory, and that is great to see. It's fantastic to see. The No Man's Land sequence is arguably the best action sequence in the film, and probably I would love to see how people put that as comic book action sequence overall. The No Man's Land sequence was amazing to watch. It's the first time we actually see Diana in the Wonder Woman costume, because we see like little glimpses of her and we see glimpses of the dress here or there, but having that build up of her stepping on there and her telling Steve like, what's the point of coming out here? We're not protecting people. Essentially, that's not a line from the movie, but it's kind of what she says. And Steve was like, that's not the mission. Our mission is to go here, and we don't have time for this. And she steps up. She steps in there, and She's just running through no man's land and blocking all the shots with her gauntlets and then her shield, and it's a very, very cool scene, and it's an awesome scene. And the fact that she goes in there and she's not a care in the world is amazing to watch. And just the music, the way it's shot. I mean, everything else around her is like, gloomy and dark, and it has this really weird like tint. And she steps up, and her, outfit or costume or armor, whatever you want to call it, is the brightest thing there. It's a glimmer of hope. If you want to get really, deep, it's the glimmer of hope of her stepping onto no man's land. A woman, a demigod, or a god, whatever you want to, small g, big G, whatever, stepping into no man's land and going to protect people. That is an awesome sight. It was supremely, awesomely cool to watch. The village scene following right after No Man, I would kind of count that as one big scene because it goes right into it. But her going into that little office and watching her, just watch her just brutally just attack these soldiers who were like, man, we're screwed. It was great. And then having the Wonder Woman song play, the theme that we all know from BVS, was pretty awesome. And then of course we see the shot that we see in the trailers, but it just felt so. Who was it? I just listened to it. It was another podcast, Blurred Vision. Jordan over at Blurred Vision. He says that you felt it in the theater when she knees the guy through the window. You do. I watched that movie twice. I watched it in IMAX, and I watched it in a Dolby Cinema theater. And you feel it, man. You feel her hit that guy, like just like the sound of it is like, oh man, no, that guy's dead. There's that guy's dead. That guy's really dead. He's not getting back up. He doesn't have a broken sternum. No, he's dead. So overall, I know I'm gonna forget something. I just wrote a few things down, but I know I'm just gonna forget something. Wonder Woman is great. It's a great origin story. I loved, that she's a fish out of water, and she doesn't know the world of man too much, and she has this guy that a man that she's never met, or just men that she's never met, people that she's never seen. Just a fish out of water story is great. It's a great origin story. Gal Gadot is great in it. I can't wait to see what else she does with this character. Patty Jenkins, the director, is going to return for Wonder Woman 2, and I think she's already kind of guessing that the film will take place here in America, so we don't know kind of where it's going to go with that. But, and by the way, Wonder Woman 2 is not greenlit in any way, shape, or form. They're just talking about it right now, so just wait on that. I liked it. I thought Wonder Woman was fantastic. I thought it was a great origin story. I thought it was a great movie. Not just a great comic movie, a great movie. And the fact that they call her Diana throughout the film is fantastic. She's not Wonder Woman. She's Diana. It's great. After all these years of waiting, after all these months of doubt of whether it was going to be good or not, and all the people, all these good reviews, all the fresh rating, whatever you want to call it, after all these years of having this, movie loom over us and the potential of letting us down, finally seeing it on the big screen, finally see it, done well. This is the movie we've been waiting for. I think it's great. It's a great movie. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend you do. If you've already seen it, first of all, what are you doing listening to this review if you haven't seen it yet? But if you've already seen it, go watch it again. I watched it twice because I was always gonna watch it twice anyway. I may go watch it a third time. I'm not gonna lie. It's a great movie. Again, the gripes I have were some underdeveloped characters. The villains were pretty weak. I wish they had spent more time on Themyscira. I didn't really feel like there was a pacing issue. I thought the pacing was fine. There are moments where the movie slows down, but those slowed down moments are to build up the characters. And I thought that was really pretty cool. I mean, yeah, you can slow down a movie to get characters, but sometimes, for some movies, they just stop the movie in general. Just like, oh my god, it's like you get whiplash sometimes from just how, the steady stream of it going and then just like stopping all of a sudden for no reason, or for a very poorly written scene. But here it's the slowed down moments, the moments that happen right after an action scene or whatever, they serve a purpose and they're done well. I had no pacing problem with this movie. I thought the final CGI battle probably went on a little bit too long, but other than that, I had no pacing issues. I was surprised when I found out the movie was 2 hours, because it felt like it flew by. I was having so much fun. I thought it was really great. Yeah, just underdeveloped characters. The villains were a little weak. The motivation for Ares was a little off. But other than that, I had a lot of fun with Wonder Woman. I don't know if it's again. I mentioned this on the Friday podcast. I don't know where it's gonna land. For people's best comic book movies of the year, or in general, just the big list that of course we probably all make. But I put it up there. I would put it high up there. The movie's been breaking records. I think it was like over 100. Yeah, it was over 100, just a little bit over $100 million at the box office this weekend. It's the highest grossing movie for a female-led action movie, and I think the highest grossing movie with a female director. It's worth it. It deserves all the praise it's getting. It's a great film. That's all I can say. It's a great movie. You should go watch it. If you already watched it, go watch it again. Again, I don't know why you're listening to this if you haven't watched it yet. Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you spoiling movies for yourself? But go watch it again. Go appreciate it again. It's one of these movies that, especially with the DCEU, I saw the headline for this. Like the Wonder Woman was what we needed from Superman, from Man of Steel. This glimmer of hope, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought that was a very interesting headline. I didn't read the article because I was in the car. I wasn't driving. I was just in the car, and I saw the headline. But I want to go back and see if I can find that and read it, because it's true. The tone and maybe some of the themes are what we needed in Man of Steel. I think if they had captured some of that in Man of Steel instead of Wonder Woman, instead of their fourth film in the series already, they had captured that at the beginning, captured some of that essence in the first film, we wouldn't be talking about and we wouldn't be bashing the DCU too much. But we are. And Wonder Woman is the savior. Now, of course, I also mention this frequently when we talk about the DCU. Now that Wonder Woman is out, and it's awesome, and it's great, great movie, Justice League has a lot of eyes and a lot of weight on it. It needs to be great. It needs to be good. Because if it isn't, that is a huge just slap in the face to all of us. It's like, oh yeah, Wonder Woman's, we're high on the Wonder Woman craze and we're all great and awesome, and then Justice League comes out and just like, nah. Why would you do it? And it's not okay to be like, oh, Justice League sucked, but Wonder Woman though, that was good. And like, no, that's not, for me, that's not a valid excuse. It's not. So I hope that Wonder Woman and the success and all the praise and all of the great stuff that fans have been saying about it, and what Hollywood's been saying about it. There's been a lot of celebrities going up on Twitter praising the film. I hope that Wonder Woman really makes everyone over at Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment understand what fans want a little bit. Obviously, Wonder Woman is very different from Justice League. Justice League is surrounded by other characters, but just take some notes. And see what fans want. So my rating for Wonder Woman is, I did a written review and I wrote 4 out of 5 for my rating. I think I'm going to stick with that. I think I'm going to stick with that. It's not, like I mentioned, it's not perfect. I do have some gripes with it. I still think it's a great movie. So I'm going to stick with my 4 out of 5 rating for Wonder Woman. Maybe I'll go watch it again, understand it a little bit more. Not understand a little bit more. Get. Why did I say understand? Not understand, but just soak it in a little bit more. Maybe I'll change my rating. But 4 out of 5 for Wonder Woman. Like I mentioned, it's a great movie. It's a great origin story. Gal Gadot's great in it. The action's pretty good. Villains, it does run into some DCU common problems. Weak villains, and a little bit over too long CGI final battle. But other than that, it's a great movie. If you've only seen it once, go watch it again. I know I'm probably gonna go watch it again, third time probably. So, all right, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Wonder Woman 4 out of 5, and Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, 3.5 out of 5, because I'm still a 5-year-old. So next week we will be coming back for another review. I will be reviewing the A24 horror thriller It Comes at Night, and I will also be reviewing Universal Pictures' first film in their Dark Universe shared Monsterverse. That's a mouthful. It's just called Dark Universe, but they may change it because of the whole Warner Brothers potentially maybe suing them kind of thing, because they had the title first for the Justice League Dark movie, so they might not. It's a big thing. It's a big deal. Yeah, I'll be reviewing The Mummy next week as well. So The Mummy and It Comes at Night, another dual review next week. Not hopefully, I will be doing one. I will be doing it. I'm not gonna lie, I will be doing it. So It Comes at Night and The Mummy will be reviewed next week. Let me know what you guys thought of my Wonder Woman and Captain Underpants review. I know there are things that I would have mentioned, I would have loved to mention, talked about, but I just can't remember them, and I didn't write. I just wrote a few keywords down here for me to go off of. So, but yeah, I do have a written review for Wonder Woman up as well over my WordPress account, movieswithchris.wordpress.com. That's a spoiler-free review, so if you want to go check that out as well. Although you already heard my spoiler-free review, so I figured I'd plug it anyway. Why not? So yeah, that's it. So I will see you guys later this week on Friday. A few days. It's Tuesday already. So I will see you guys at the end of the week for our weekly roundup movie news podcast, which is of course our normal podcast for the week. Where we'll talk about all the movie news, talk about trailers, and we'll talk about the movies that are coming out. So of course, A24's It Comes at Night and Universal Pictures' The Mummy will be a part of that as well. But yeah. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to my review. Let me know what you guys thought of Wonder Woman, and if you went to go see Captain Underpants as well, what did you guys think of it? What were your favorite parts? What were your least favorite parts? What do you think they could have done better? What do you really liked about the film? Yeah, let me know. Let me know down in the comments below. And that's it. That's all I got. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys at the end of the week. And as we always end the podcast here at the Movie Pets, I am your host, Christian, and have a beautiful week, have a nice week, and go watch some movies.